It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week, DC has announced a new animated, I use animated in quotes here, movie featuring two Robins. We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
I want to get your opinion on this because there's a video reel in here that this is not just a normal animated movie, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. Venom: The Last Dance popcorn buckets start arriving, so we can add those to our end of the year popcorn bucket recap that we're probably going to do in December. So I'm excited for that. Spider-Man 4's rumored title includes royalty, wink wink, hint hint. We're going to see how this plays off, and more.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know we are a very Western-centric podcast because Chris and I both live in the States over here, but it's been wild over here, barometrically, weatherly, depending on where you live. My wife and I were hoping the heat waves were done, at least for Southern California, and we're in another one right now, which is not fair when it's October. Like, I know every October it always gets hot here again. I don't know why we're always surprised, but I'm like, no, it's supposed to be cozy fall vibes. Why is it hot? And then there's parts of the South that are getting just absolutely flooded from hurricanes, because I also always forget that the fall is hurricane season. Chris, I don't know if you're surviving over there in Louisville. Does it feel like fall at all where you are? I know you went to Chicago this weekend too. Yes. Did it feel like fall there at all? I need to know that that weather exists somewhere right now.
In the evening, yes. However, much like you during the day yesterday, we got to Chicago, and I expected it to be a lot cooler, right? So on the lake, it's more north. No, it was hot as balls when we got out of the car in Chicago. And then we get back here, get out of my car, still hot as balls. So we are daytime heat wave, but I have seen coming up the evenings and the temperatures start getting lower. It has been interesting. Earlier this week, my wife was on fall break, and in the morning she was like, it's kind of cold in the house. And I'm here all the time, so I don't notice this. So I have, again, the smart thermostat. Like the cool thing about this, right? You can do heat at one temperature, air conditioning at the other, and it has been doing both right now. We're in that nice window where you get to utilize both of those heats and air conditionings. But when she's back at work, though, it'll just be air conditioning for a while. We don't need to heat that bad yet. But obviously, we did get pounded with some rain from the hurricanes here once it made its way inland, and I'm interested to see if we get anything from the upcoming one this week as well.
Yeah, there's one coming up. I think on Wednesday is when it makes landfall, so hopefully we don't have any big news headlines. Don't want anyone facing any tragedy, but it is the fall, and speaking of extremely minor tragedies in the scale, I always know something happens on this week's episode of Great British Bake Off because Chris watches it on a Tuesday.
Yes.
He watches kind of the feed out of the UK, and I check it out on Fridays on Netflix. So if Chris just kind of vaguely texts me in the middle of the week like, oh, have you watched Bake Off yet? I know something has happened on Bake Off. I don't know what it could be. A big thing, it could be a small thing.
Yes.
Maybe Peru just said something that's
inappropriate,
sexual innuendo or something dramatic happen, and things dramatic do not happen often on this show. It's that's why it's in the cozy fall vibes section of the podcast.
It's not life or death most of the times in the tent. It is just oh my gosh, it didn't bake all the way through.
Or it was like really hot out or something.
It was too hot or it was too cold, or Knull knocked something over he wasn't supposed to, right? Like it's little things like that. It's not life or death in this situation. I did Patrick, who's a listener, he's gonna get kicked because he watches it with me. We live text each other during the show, and I got to use the older lady of the series. Like there's always the older lady of the series, that archetype. And I was like, I forget her name. I was like, you dumb bitch. And I told him that, and he was like a couple minutes behind me, and he was like, I was like, let me know when you get to what you think this moment was about. And it was where she had used a soft a soft thing for her build, like the softest. Well, it wasn't cookies, was it? It's not bread. It was soft.
It was short. I think she was using shortbread in place of gingerbread for construction.
Yeah, it was something soft instead of hard because she needed to have walls, and I was like, oh, that's not a good thing. Like, I feel so invested in these, and I have like my comments, but go into, and you know, we this season there was an American representing.
Yes,
well.
it was unique. I was wondering if that was ever going to happen, because you don't truly always necessarily get just like British people on the show. You get, I guess, immigrants in a way, or people from other countries that move to Britain. They could be second generation, so they still have all of their cultural, background and sensibilities that go into their bakes, which kind of makes the show interesting, because you'll get like a lot of like Indian influence, or other cultures,
Eastern European, sometimes.
Yes.
I think there was African one year as well. So like the flavor profiles can really expand quickly from those contestants.
Yeah, and then so this year there is an expat American, and I'm like, oh wow, this is crazy. Like, do I just root for this guy just by default because it's the first time we get the red, white, and blue stripes on the show, and he he falls out sick the first episode, and then in the first episode, then in the second episode, he's like barely moving. He kind of looks like a skeleton, a walking skeleton. So I'm like, what is going on with this guy? I feel bad for him. No ill will towards this man at all. But I was just like, this is like, I feel like this was like a poor showing for Americans on Bake Off, and I feel like I blame the producers. Like this was all set up from the beginning. Like, oh, we're gonna make the Americans look like shit. Let's bring the sickest guy we can find and put him on the show.
Have you seen the videos of Frankie Valli this week? Barely. It kind of was like him, right? We brought this guy out to bake, and out of 6 possible bakes he could make in 2 episodes, he did 2. He did 2 bakes total. He didn't make it through the technical. He didn't make it through the showstoppers on either episode. So,
and this was the first he like so unceremoniously like left in the second episode. Like the technical challenge happened, and he's just like, he's under the weather. I think he just looked down at his table and looked at the challenge of I don't even remember what the technical bake was for the second week. It was like a mint cookie or something, and he was just like, "Fuck this! I'm going home. Like I don't feel good. Yeah, I don't need this." It felt very like American. I think he was like Brooklyn or like New York. I think
Bronx.
Originally, I think he was just like, nah, I'm a tough New Yorker. Fuck this, I'm off the show. I'm really bringing in the offensive language at the top of the show, just channeling in my American energy.
I'm walking here, kind of. No, he wasn't like that at all. But like, it was. I can't say how bad he felt. Like, obviously, they wouldn't bring somebody in, I think, who would literally walk out after 2 bakes out of a potential 6 unknowingly. But like, he was just walked away with his coffee cup in hand. I'm like, guys under the weather just downing coffee left and right over there. Like, he's got his cup in hand and just goes out, and then we never see him again.
Yeah, he was a mood, or as some kids would say, that's a vibe.
Yeah.
At least it was kind of baller to just like leave the show just holding a coffee cup. And I thought that was it. I thought that was all that Chris wrote in his text message. But no, somebody faints in the episode. Then somebody falls off a stool because they're grabbing a water bottle. I thought that third moment was like a replay. I thought they were like going back and looking at the game tape again. I was like, oh no, that's a third person. And it was crazy. Like, if I actively avoid Great British Bake Off discourse on social media and the internet, because people sometimes get too into it and they ruin the show for me.
Right.
But I feel like this was the one time where I was like, I kind of want to see what the internet's saying, but I stayed true and I held back. And I was like, I'll just wait till Sunday and I'll just talk to Chris about it.
Yeah, I haven't looked up the internet on this one either, but I was like, oh my gosh, what an episode to invoke so much emotion out the gate. Because the first episode, everyone's like, oh, you got to pick your favorite episode. I'm like, I can't tell any of these people. They're all over the place, back and forth. Episode 2, they're all over the place. But I'm like, well, the American guy's out, that's for sure. And then there was 2 ladies. I was like, oh, they're in over their heads here as well. But I'm excited. It gives us like 8 more weeks of this through at least November. I'm excited. It's great. We've got I've got content to watch at my leisure right now, Mike, because we have this Rings of Power just wrapped up. Agatha Long's every Wednesday through Halloween. There was something else. I don't remember. I'm not watching Penguin at live. I'll just go ahead and commit to that. I'm not watching Penguin, but like you're right. It's fall season because like I'm excited for the holiday seasons, Thanksgiving, Christmas, to be around people who are making things and cooking things. So the Great British Bake Off baking show, what have you, is absolutely just heartwarming. Which brings us to the next trailer you're going to talk about because
yes, if you want maximum heartwarming energy, which somehow Chris has.
What my quote is, I don't give two shits about Paddington. Yeah,
which is wrong. That is the wrong take. If there was ever a take to have about Paddington, that was the wrong one. I know. The trailer for the third Paddington dropped. Paddington in Peru, and it just looks like a super fun romp. It's everything. It's the best franchise out there in the world right now. I can't wait to sit down and watch it with my kid over and over again. It's been a while since I've watched them, and I forget how kind of like wacky and madcap and like physical it is. Like the formula is like Paddington walks into a room and he like either tries to climb up a shelf because he's trying to get like a sweet treat, or he thinks he's helping by cleaning something and something falls in the toilet, and then everything just devolves into madness, and then eventually a human opens a door and it reveals an absolutely chaotic scene in another room, and it's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
Highly
rated movies, right? Like they're both like 100%. The first two on
exactly.
On yeah.
So Chris, you just need to get out of your own way, and you need to indulge in what is soon to be the most perfect movie trilogy of all time.
Oh yeah. I'm aware. I'm in the minority here. I'm not hating on it. I don't want to sit down and watch Paddington. That's where it boils down to. I did watch Paddington as a child, the cartoon. I do remember that. I have nothing against it. I just got to sit down and do it. Right.
An illusion for the show here into the future. We're talking about very highly rated movies right now, which is the Paddington franchise, and I see Chris live editing the notes for a particular movie, and the score just went down
quite a bit
in real time right in front of me.
Quite a bit too.
So Paddington in Peru,
yeah,
it's great. But Chris, you did something that I had the opportunity to do over 4 years ago, just before the entire world shut down from the pandemic. I went and saw this in January 2020. I can't believe I threaded the needle on this one. Chris, you finally got a chance to see it, so now we can kind of talk about it in a little bit more detail. You went to Chicago. I saw it in San Francisco.
Yes.
Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Asterisk here. If people may or may not know from listening to the show, we are not Harry Potter heads. Our wives are. We are just by adjacently we're here. But Harry Potter and the Cursed Child finally is doing. I think it was a fixture at San Francisco, right, for a while. Now it's traveling in America, and it's in Chicago through February. So we were able to go see it. My wife bought tickets like day one, and we got up there, and we went yesterday and came back today. As someone who is like vaguely familiar with the book, and I say book, it's the play in book form, right? That's kind of how they have released this. It's not technically an official novel. It is the play as a book kind of thing. I had a really good time. I will tell you, I was around a lot of people who were impressed with the set effects in the show. They utilize backlighting and projection mapping to just utter amazement to make magic really come to life on a stage, right? Like normally, you wouldn't see that, but like, they're using lights that are shining forward, so you don't see people in black suits like twirling chairs in the air behind them, right? You can't see the person. I know there's a person there, but they're doing that. The projection mapping, I will say, if you're into multiverses, by God, this is a multiversal Harry Potter play, Mike. So I enjoyed, whenever there's time turners involved. Whenever they use a time turner, there's a ripple effect across the entire stage. I don't know if you had that or remember that.
I'm trying to remember. I do recall the most impressive part of this show is the stagecraft. And one thing I wanted to ask you was, and I guess we can flag this as like light spoilers, but even if we do spoiler it, I think it's still fun to see it in person.
Absolutely.
Just before the show went into intermission, I had a big fantastical effect that overtook the entire theater, not just the stage. Like the walls, the ceiling, everywhere had a big effect on it, and then the house lights came back on and it was intermission. Did you have that type of effect during your show?
No, I don't think so. That the intermission part is a reveal where one of the characters is at a place he didn't think he'd ever be, right? At least my show was. Because I'm trying not to say without spoilers, but later in the show there is a younger female character, I guess, and you find out a little more of her backstory that took over the theater. So maybe I miss it.
Okay, maybe I'm misremembering when it happened, but I was just impressed by how much they used the whole space for the show, and I think it's helpful, at least for me and you, that we are just kind of tangentially interested in the universe, because I didn't really care so much about the legacy of characters or what they were doing in the future or anything like that. I was just like, I'm a relatively new fan of like theater and musicals, so everything is kind of new and exciting to me, even though like diehard fans will like be familiar with all of this stuff because they've been in it their whole life. But like just the cool effects on the stage, I think are worth the price of admission.
It really felt like magic, like literally like they were pulling off magic on a stage, right? And sometimes you don't get to hide those seams as well in stage productions. Like it's not a movie, you can't fix it in post on a stage. You have to do it live and you have to make it believable. And the intro scene is the platform 9 3/4. They're on a train station, and then they go through, and then the projection mapping changes, and the next thing you know, same set, but they're in a different place, and it feels different because they were able to project downwards or onto these columns and the ceilings and walls rather than rely on things being painted in place. And that was really awesome. It brought me in. Now this play is also set 20 years after the last movie, and it's dealing with again Harry Potter. And his kids and them growing up. And I will say one of the things you have to remember that this is a theatrical play, right? This is not a movie. The movies get very heavy as they go on in the Harry Potter franchise, right? They start to get weightier and weightier. But like in a play, everything's for the dramatic, for the flair, right? You're doing it on a stage. You have to be a little more flamboyant in your actions and how you perform. And if you're like, oh my God, I only know movie Harry Potter, that's all I want. This is going to you're going to have to shake that off to get into this a little bit because they don't play it the same as the film, right? They do very well. The actors do very well, for the carryovers, in the word McGonagall, she's still teaching, rest in peace, Maggie Smith recently, right? Who I thought looked old in the first Harry Potter, so kudos for getting another 24 years. But I really, the story's fine. I think it's great. I think it's serviceable. It's really fun to watch. Like I said, the set effects are there. The actors are good. I never looked at my watch. I never wanted to look at my phone, Mike, and I think that's a testament of like a good show, a good story, and good performances overall, right? Mm-hmm. So.
There's a very unexpected character that I'll never forget in the show that grows like really long claws.
Yeah.
It's like really crazy and unexpected,
but
a very cool effect. It
so
sounds
neat.
It sounds like it's touring, and you should go check it out.
I know listener to the show Jason, his daughter is huge into Harry Potter, and she did this Harry Potter summer camps. And I'm going to tell you, Jason, if you get a chance to go up there, you will not regret it. It was absolutely fantastic. We sat in the dressing circle. Have you ever familiar with the dressing circle area of a stage? So it was like the balcony tier was above us, but the floor was below us. So it was like a small 4 rows that kind of looped in between those two. So imagine the cream filling of an Oreo.
Okay.
We had to look out a little bit. I couldn't see some of the top of the stage, but it didn't affect me at all. It was a good time. With that, we got we bought some merch. It was fun. We made a day out. We had dinner, walked down there, walked back. It was a fun little jaunt to see this. And I would love to see this as a movie. If I'm going to be completely honest, Mike, I would love to see a theatrical version of this.
I'm sure Zaslav, if he survives I looked it up today, his 2027 contract span, he will absolutely want to turn it into a movie.
They didn't want him to be there that long. They're hoping somebody buys him out so they can fire him first.
Yeah. It's truly unfortunate. That I'm sure J.K. Rowling does make money from this, but if you want to convince yourself, she didn't write this. It's like this is almost kind of like fan fiction, if you will. Like I think it was like two writing partners wrote the play and everything. And so at least you can take solace in the fact of like she didn't write it. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure she's still making money from it, but I mean, if you need to find a way around it,
we can't get away from that. Anything Harry Potter is going to give dollars back to her unless you're pirating it or buying it from someone who 3D prints things, Mike. Wink, wink, hint, hint. But obviously, it was written by Jack Thorne and John Tiffany, and music by Imogen Heap as well. Man, date premiered 8 years ago. This has been out for 8 years. I can't believe that. So, absolutely, if you're into Harry Potter or even like slightly interested, I highly recommend this. It's such a great time. And it's not a musical. That was the other thing. I was like, man, is this going to be a musical? Like last one I saw was Wicked, right? I was like, oh, that was a musical. Don't mind Wicked. That's also getting the movie treatment this year, but it's not a musical. It's just a regular play. However, Mike, I watched a movie this week that is a musical, or wants to think it's a musical. I don't think it's a musical by any means. We're going to be talking about Joker, Folie, Deux here at the top of the show. And I wasn't going to watch it. I wasn't going. I was like, I kind of want to watch it, but I don't care enough, about it. But I did watch it. But we're going to go through some news points first. The opening is estimated lower than 39 million domestically, and that's on par with Morbius. If that
I'm
gives
still
you guys...
shook from the moment weeks ago when you told me live on the show that the budget of this movie was 3 times higher than the first one. Mm-hmm. That's when I knew things were on shaky ground. I'm glad you watched it, Chris, because I'm starting to see the opinions out there on the internet. I have less time than I've ever had in my life before, and it was pretty easy
long
to make the judgment call that, this is not going to be in the rotation. But it's a great thing that I got a close connection that watched the movie and will tell me his initial thoughts on it. I guess spoiler free, like we always do. But I need to know, Chris.
Yeah.
What's happening in this movie?
Okay, that's a great question. So this picks up several years after the first Joker movie, right? And I would say it kind of fits into 2 parts. And the first part is like the Arthur Fleck is going through. He's in prison, Arkham probably asylum, and he is. They made a TV movie about him. You don't get to see it, but like he is there going through therapy, trying to get to say he is sane to stand trial for the murders of the 5 people, right in the first movie. And his lawyer, Catherine Keener, or not lawyer, I guess, maybe lawyer, Catherine Keener, and the therapy people, they're trying to get there's 2 people in C. There's Arthur and Joker. It's another person. The Joker's the one who did the murder. Arthur didn't. They give him a competency to stand trial, and then the second half is the trial, and that's where it gets interesting. Because this movie is not fun. Like I had no fun watching this movie. I have never wanted to walk out of a movie before, and then like I felt like through this film. And I get it. There are musical elements. Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga. No clue what they're doing with her in this. Like she's in there quite a bit. Don't quite understand what was going on with her or what her point was. There are just random moments. This movie doesn't know what it wants to be. There are random moments where it cuts away to musical pieces. Sometimes it'll transition, but the musical pieces are rarely real life, I guess. Like the diegetic portions of the film, they're in his head. And I just didn't have a good time. I think the courtroom scenes, and that's why I bring up, are some of the most interesting. I wish this had been like a courtroom. The whole movie set in the courtroom of them judging Arthur / Joker and what he did, right, and how he views his stuff. But literally, he goes to court, then he goes back to the jail, and then he goes to court. And he goes like every day, court, jail, back and forth for this whole thing, and it is just it doesn't feel like it picks up from the last movie. Like the Arthur, like as he becomes a Joker in the last one, he embraces it, right, and that's who he becomes. This one, it's like we're back at square one. He's just a weak little Arthur Fleck who doesn't really hasn't embraced the Joker kind of thing yet. It's really hard to follow, and not follow. It's just really hard to get into it because it's boring. It's boring at the end of the day, Mike, and I hate to say that because the first movie made $1 billion. I didn't, I'm not in love with the first movie, but I understand. it's a Scorsese homage Taxi Driver kind of thing, and it's going at. But this has none of that going for it. I think there's a couple moments where Joaquin Phoenix really embraces, that Joker, and I'm like, God, I see it. Lady Gaga, I don't really buy her as Lee Quinzel or Lee Quinn or whatever her name is in this movie. It's not Harley Quinn. So it's just no fun. Not a good time. Wouldn't recommend it to save your life.
The ultimate sin of a movie is to be boring,
yeah.
Unfortunately, which is probably why it looks like the popcorn bucket and the tomato seem to be aligning for the first time in a while with a big movie.
Yeah, so Mike was talking about me updating scores. I was updating the Rotten Tomato scores because I did this notes on Friday, and it's gone down Friday from critics and audience alike. 33% critic approval rate, 31% audience approval rate. And I will say, in this, how Rotten Tomatoes works is one of 3 people would recommend this in this situation, right? Based on these reviews, I would say 1/3 of the movie probably entertaining. It's actually pretty good. The other 2/3 could really do without. So I agree with this alignment here. I wish it was I think it's trying to make a swing with the musical notes. They're not offensive. I don't think the musical notes parts are offensive at all. With that, I think they're trying to make a swing, but like, it's not a committal swing, right? Like, they kind of go halfway with the swing and stop, and then they're like, okay, well, we got to make another Joker movie, so it's another halfway Joker movie swing, and 2 swings don't make a full. So it just really, lands flat. This is a joke no one's laughing at, I guess, if we're going to use Joker references along the way. But the reports are coming out of this movie, like, they're like, what went wrong? How could a $1 billion movie have a very, very low returning sequel? I will say Captain Marvel was a $1 billion movie. The Marvels higher than this, but not by much, Mike. So movie I think Aquaman ended up making a lot more money, but like, movies can come out and have sequels that are awful. But the notes here are Todd Phillips, the director, was given the final cut from Warner Brothers, and you're like, why would you do that? Why would you give a director? Well, he between what's that franchise he did, the funny one, the Hangover franchise and Joker 1, he brought in $2.5 billion for the studio. So what are you going to do? Like, Todd, we trust you, right? You've made us money. And then also the Venice premiere of this movie a month ago, is considered a disaster because they let the low critic reviews sit for a month before this movie came out, like preventing, I guess, walk-up business, as we talked about, Mike. Legs, word of mouth. I've heard the phrase walk-up business thrown around a lot. People aren't walking up and buying movie tickets to this just to see it because of what they've heard. So, and the big asterisk here, no test audiences for the film either. So they had no one to provide feedback for this throughout the whole production. So, oof, right? Is this an oof?
I guess the writing is on the wall for trying to pinhole this Joker universe into the greater DCU. We don't have to worry about now any kind of like multiversal shenanigans that somehow is pulling the Joker through some sort of portal and putting him in the mainline universe. Maybe also this kind of insulates Gunn and Safran in a way of like, well, I guess they are still financially responsible, to the CEO and the board of just like, hey, why did you put out this stinker? But also at the same time, it's just like, hey, we already told you we're moving past all of this legacy stuff and putting everything into this new universe. Now you don't have to worry about this kind of like hanging Chad out here that's not really gonna affect anything.
I was gonna say where I had another article that James Gunn has been out reminding people that DC Studios had nothing to do with Joker 2. Like, he's out there like on threads saying we have nothing to do with this. But at the same time, we talked about it. We'll talk about DC has a small hit on his hands. I wouldn't say financial hit, but like, man, what a way to go out, right? With with this, and we got we'll talk about the other stuff here that aren't DC Studios adjacent before we get into that. So, Mike, any other questions on Joker 2? Because I'm just not feeling it. I don't even know if I'd recommend someone when it came home for someone to watch. I'm like, wait for it to stream on Max or something like that. Sure, but like, it's 2 hours and 18 minutes, and you feel a lot of that first half throughout it. So we'll move on. So I was talking about DC's hits, Mike. Right now, DC has a hit on their hands with the Penguin series, and the series episode 2 saw a 17% increase in viewers from the premiere of episode 1. I guess 3 weeks ago, not 2 weeks, and it's sitting at I think it's a 95% or so on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that we use Rotten Tomatoes as a basis, but that's what all the articles are pulling from. 94%. It's 94 now. Not too bad. So the problem with the Penguin is, guess what, Mike? It's not a theatrical release, right? You can't really tie a lot of dollars to streaming services and costs. So
yeah, this show is weirdly kind of breaking through in a way, and with that 17% increase, my wife and I were just on a walk around the neighborhood, and we ran into one of our neighbors that we kind of chat with on the sidewalk for a little bit. And just before we were wrapping things up and going our separate ways, he was like, "Oh, have you guys watched The Penguin yet?" And I was like, this dude is 70 years old, and he's asking us if we watched The Penguin. And I'm just so surprised that was even on his radar. So I know it's all anecdotal, and I don't know, maybe he's just a diehard Batman fan and I don't know about it. But just the fact that it's casually coming up in conversation out in the real world. Also, this isn't good for my street cred, but I think I said on the show verbatim that the best way for this show to be successful is just to make a really, really good show that happens to be that happens to star the Penguin, and it seems like that's what they're doing. But I still don't really want to watch it. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, but I just do not feel compelled to turn it on.
I am the same way. It's a critical success for Warner Brothers, right? It's on top of every news article. People are talking about it. It's getting better viewers, and I'm the same way. I don't. If I'm going to be honest, I don't want a downer show right now, and I don't feel I'm going to get any happiness out of watching The Penguin. And I need happy stuff. That's why we go to the Great British Baking Show, because guess what? That's a happy show, Mike, right? Everyone's nice there. They're not yelling. They're not screaming. No one's getting shot or killed or stabbed. So I'm not in my fall mood for watching something, I guess, so serious and I wouldn't say dour, but it's a gritty show, right? A gritty crime drama similar to Sopranos. So I am in the same way. I have no qualms against it. I'm glad it's doing great, but I don't have the urge to go watch it right now, if that makes sense. So, but that's good. Good content, is great for everybody, especially Batman stuff, because as we're going to get into our next topic here, David Zaslav, our favorite guy around, obviously he's a real person with real thoughts, is losing patience in the DCU already and pushing for more Batman content at Warner Brothers DC to compete with Marvel Studios. I think this comes from the Batman 2 is now been pushed to 2026. I don't think there's a date for The Brave and the Bold, and if it is, it might be 2027. And the idea that he has floated, is making Robert Pattinson's Batman the Batman, including the DCU retroactively.
So many thoughts. I feel like this was perfectly encapsulated by a random reply that I saw on the internet earlier this week that was a very sarcastic in tone that said, yes, trying to play catch up with the MCU has really worked out well for DC in the past. And that's one of the reasons why I looked up Zaslav's contract earlier today, because I was like, oh, why is he rushing this? And it's probably because he's on the chopping block. Also, I didn't know the dude is 64 years old. Just retire. Just go off into the sunset, take your bag. I guess he's trying to boost the stock price before he heads out, because the majority of his compensation is tied up in the stock price. But no, Robert Pattinson's Batman is so insanely grounded that I cannot imagine that Batman in this Superman universe that Gunn is creating, even just from the set photos that I've seen. I mean, I suppose if the effort was there and everyone was on board across all movies and franchises, maybe they could make it work, right? Maybe just the first Robert Pattinson Batman movie is really, really grounded, and then we kind of pivot and brighten and lighten everything up a little bit.
They could say Gotham. Gotham is just an old city that never really grew up. Maybe, right? Maybe
because like a different culture.
Yeah, if Gotham and Metropolis look the same, I'm going to lose interest in both of them. I'm not going to know which one's which. And I felt Batman v Superman, right? I never could tell you which one was Metropolis and which was Gotham because they were like separated by a bay of water at the end of the day. So if they wanted to do that, I think they could. However, there's two merits to this. Number one, of course, Batman is a moneymaker, right? Toys, shows, the Penguins being a rating success. I have here in my notes. Batman everyone will buy everything that Batman. I think all the money the Flash made was so people could see Batman, not because they wanted to see the Flash. At the end of the day, and James Gunn is leaning very heavy into Superman lore for his stuff, right? Superman, Supergirl. I think Peacemaker is one thing. So having Batman wouldn't be bad. But so I think Zaslav was like, we need money so I can raise the stocks up so I can get my paycheck at the end of the day. And Batman's the only one that can do it. Superman hasn't really worked for us lately. We've had a lot of Batman movies, but I don't think, again, this is a situation where you don't want a executive running your creative team, right? It could work with the right people involved, but like just put your Batman over here with the Superman, and what's the difference? No one will know. They'll all go see the movie and we'll all take home big fat paychecks. But I don't think that's the right answer at the end of the day. I'm also tired of waiting for DCU, but guess what? We have to.
I feel like maybe the fire inside of Zaslav will be tamed a little bit once Superman comes out. Hopefully it's very, very critically good, extremely box office successful, and he'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. You proved me wrong. Let's just chill and wait. But I do agree that it is an odd challenge to have this very specific Batman existing in your universe, but also clearly pitching to the fans out there that a new Batman is coming. And, it'll be like, what did he say? It's going to be like a father and son type of story. Yeah. So we're obviously looking at a more seasoned Batman, not like a year one or a year two Batman. So I get it, but, they made a creative decision of like, let's just press on forward, make something brand new. And that worked out well for Marvel. They just started from square one. And I feel like Superman is a really good square one to start with. So let's just hope Zaslav loses his job and we get somebody in here that knows what the hell they're doing. Yeah,
we're not that lucky, Mike. We're not that lucky. No one running the top of this stuff knows what they're doing. They're just out there throwing out buzzwords. But I think we both agree it's not a good idea. Moving on into a DCU animated film, and this was announced by James Gunn. It's called Dynamic Duo, and it's an animated movie based on Nightwing and the Red Hood, who I believe they were both Robins, Tim Drake and Grayson. Oh shoot, I forget his name. Dick Grayson's right there. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, not the other one. So they're supposed to be early days. There were rumors that they were supposed to be thieves, but here's from Variety. Dynamic Duo will depict how the friendship between Dick Grayson and Jason Todd youth become tested by their diverging ideas for what their future should be. People may know Dick Grayson goes on to become Nightwing. Jason Todd becomes the Red Hood. The Red Hood, Jason Todd was quote unquote killed by the Joker in a famous 1980s comic book where people wrote in and got to determine if he lived or died, and he was killed. But they were able to resurrect him as the Red Hood, a more brutal vigilante later on. I think teams up with the bad people, but he still holds on to his brutal ways a little bit in the comic books. Now, all that's fun, it's cool, but the interesting part is the story is or the production between DC Studios and Swaybox Studios, and they are known for an art style called Momo Animation, Mike, which is a cross between CGI, stop motion, and live action performances. Have you heard of Momo Animation before this week?
I did not, and I'm watching their little reel right now, and it's really, really cool. I mean, I don't really know where the lines are blending. I'm just happy it doesn't look like AI soup garbage. It looks like there is like motion capture happening that's driving the CG, but maybe the CG also looks like practical puppets, but it seems like also at times practical puppets are being used and being plussed up. It's just this very engaging the demo reel is very grounded. It's just like people living in a neighborhood, peering into their lives. There's cool water effects. They kind of look like miniatures at times.
Yeah.
So if you're saying this could be adapted into like a superhero Gotham type of story, I think that sounds really, really captivating to me.
Yeah, a lot of this looks like, there's obviously, it looks like handheld camera, the rain, the water looks real. Like you said, there's puppets in this thing. It feels like if you took like maybe not necessarily Nightmare Before Christmas, but more like Coraline, and kind of pushed it into today's thing with puppets and stop motion. It's all over the place. I read the demo reel in our link is here, is in our show notes, and this isn't something it's easy to describe. You have to see this to experience it. But Swaybox, this is what they call Momo animation, and if they do it, I don't say it's exactly going to be like this for this, but I would love to see how they translate this with a lot of money and a lot of budget and a good story behind these two superheroes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
we were told by Gunn and Safran that all of the animated projects were in the same universe and the characters would bounce back and forth. So everything animation has a long timeline. So my assumption would be that this would come out after a Batman movie, not before a Batman movie. It seems like you would want to introduce your Batman first and then tell your story about his sidekicks in their own animated movie.
I think maybe, with knowing Gunn and Safran's plan is to have an aged up universe, right? Like it's not day one for all these people, and Batman having a kid with Damian Wayne being the person in the movie Brave and the Bold. I think they could tell us. We all know who Nightwing or Robins are. I think they could tell us beforehand, and they're not his Robins he has anymore. They've grown up and become their own people. I would be interested to see this. There's a lot of movies about two friends who grow up, believe the same thing, and kind of split up. Transformers 1, for an example, some other stuff. So it seems to be that. But like, it was interesting that this announcement came out, Mike, literally like several hours after the Zaslav's comments about more Batman did. So I don't know. Maybe had they had this in their pocket for a little bit, but they were like felt like, well, the big boss is saying more Batman. Well, here's some more Batman adjacent content on that, right? And could get a release date sooner, I think, than later. But we don't know. We'll never know. Something that came up a couple weeks ago, Mike, and we talked about off air, but I forgot to put in here, is the trademark for the word superhero, 2 words, superhero, which was registered in 1967, jointly owned by Marvel and DC, has expired. I think I wrote this wrong here. They have lost the shared superhero trademark. That's why I did. So superhero, we should be registered trademark by Marvel and DC, is no more. You can use it as freely as you want. Thank God they didn't find our show beforehand. DC was trying to block a comic book called Super Babies because it was too close to superhero. They didn't respond to the court's challenge in time, and the court was like, well, you didn't respond, so you lose the trademark, because the way trademarks work, you have to keep fighting them to own them, right? That's why Super Bowl is a word that we cannot use or say we own or anything. They have to fight that at every chance to hold on to that. They did note that currently at this time, Marvel and DC still own jointly own superheroes and super-villain, which may also be dropped as well if they're looking to do this. I don't think they've really fought this in a long time, Mike.
Yeah, it's such a generic term that I didn't even know. So I don't know which is going to come out of this, but at least I don't have to worry about our domain name getting I think jacked by one of the big two.
I think it was a trademark. There was I think maybe a game or something called Superhero Game back then. That's where it kind of came from to begin with. So I don't think they've been really enforcing it. So we've been lucky. But that was a fun little tidbit there. Moving into at home things you can watch at home as of last week. Deadpool Wolverine is now on paid video on demand as of last Tuesday, and it was a number 1 first day purchase movie in 2024, Mike. People were buying this movie left and right when it came out on Monday or Tuesday, and they should if they want to watch it.
I'm kind of surprised. I saw. Am I correct? Did I see the right screenshot that it's $60?
Oh, so this is the PVOD. You saw my screenshot for the Steelbook, which is $60.
Yes.
So the Steelbooks are coming out at the end of the month, and this is for one Steelbook. What used to be $30 are now $60, Mike, which is turning me off real bad.
Insane. I feel like there's some sort of economic principle in play here of like kind of like supply demand, where demand's going down, so price goes up.
We have we have reported for the past several months, if not a year now, that Disney is getting out of the making DVDs, right? They want to go all digital. They don't want to print anything physical anymore. And so some other companies are picking up the distribution rights. I think Sony is. And when a new company picks it up, guess what they can do, Mike? They can charge whatever they want for those physical releases. So what would normally cost me $30 for a physical Blu-ray to own this media at home to watch anytime I want is now twice that much, and it is just like gut-wrenching to do that. They are literally trying to kill off physical media as we speak by just pricing everybody out of it. Now, I do hope that maybe they don't sell enough and they do that, or like, you know, when it comes next year, like you can they're like, okay, well, we saw a big demand. We can lower the price a little bit or something like that. Or maybe competitors. I don't know. But really, really disappointing. But a lot of people bought it on digital. I guess maybe should clarify that for this week. Also, the other news reports that Henry Cavill is not done in the MCU, but not necessarily going to be returning as a Cavalrine as he did in Deadpool Wolverine.
I'm so over Henry Cavill. I mean, I don't know what it is about just his career, or he's like started all these projects and then, you know, backed out. I've heard at least insider reports from people who live out here that have kind of worked with him or had stories of him on set that he's kind of a nightmare to work with. I mean, I will absolutely agree. Visually and aesthetically, what an astounding looking Superman. 100% to the T, like he embodies the role. But like, I'm just so tired of hearing about the guy. When people were going crazy with his cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine, I didn't care. I was just like, oh, okay, I get it. He played Superman for a couple movies and now he's Wolverine.
Well, I think of all the Wolverine variants, that's like, I guess the least expected, because it's obviously playing in counter to Superman such as DC appearances. But right, it's him in a tank top working on a motorcycle, right? They probably just went to his house and that's what he was doing. He was building a computer. They CG'd the computer into a motorcycle, and that's how they got the shot. But I agree with you. I think his next big thing's like Warhammer 40K. Is that it? He's like,
if it even happens.
Yeah, he's supposed to be.
I feel like all of his stuff just starts and ends.
The only thing I personally like him in when he was the villain in Mission Impossible.
Yes, he's a great antagonist.
Yes,
because I feel like there's something about him that I just don't quite like.
Yeah.
So if I feel like when he's kind of on the bad side of a story, I was like, oh, this works.
Yeah. I really enjoyed him as the villain in that one. So maybe he can get him some more villain roles.
Yeah, I know this line of questioning is really hurting superfan Jim, who I know he's a big fan of Henry Cavill. Sorry, Jim.
He's a big fan of Superman. I think that's what it is. You know. So
hey, you win some, you lose some. I heard that Superman doc is really, really good. It's like the one thing James Gunn was promoting on social media this week. He's just like, hey, don't look at the Joker. Look at the ratings for the Superman documentary. It's so good. Look over here, the shiny, distracting thing.
Yeah, or the Penguin, or the Penguin. Look over there. But yeah, so. But anyway, that's the news for Deadpool and Wolverine. We probably won't have much more on that until they probably announce the inevitable fourth movie with Hugh Jackman returning until he's 90. Nova, the TV series, obviously we've heard has been worked at Marvel from Brad Winderbaum, the head of television lately. But the rumor is Glenn Close and John C. Reilly will reprise their roles as Nova Prime and Roman Day in the upcoming series. We remember they were introducing Guardians of the Galaxy as Nova Corps members and never seen again. And now, mind you, that was in 2014. That's also in the MCU timeline, 2014. So they could be flashbacks if they were killed by Thanos when he came and got the Power Stone there that was shown off screen, right? Or maybe they lived and have rebuilt somehow. But it'd be nice to touch on them again.
Yeah, I'm expecting a flashback in this movie where it opens up with Thanos invading. The planet, which would be a really cool open. I mean, talk about a way to get to hit the ground running at the first page of your script of a planet being invaded. And also, it's very captivating seeing that character on screen again, right?
Yeah.
You know, it feels like we've all kind of said goodbye to the character, and then to see them again, you know, it isn't a flashback, so it's fair play. That could be really, really fun. And you could see the planet getting destroyed, and, you know, you zoom out, and then you, like, zoom into, like, a little home or, like, a little condo. I don't know what they have on Nova Prime. I don't know how they classify their dwellings, and then you have, like, a character there. Just like, Xandar. What did I say? Nova Prime? That's a person. That's not a place.
Well, exactly. And it reminded, this is a series, not a movie. So even if it's a series, yes, it should open with that story, and they have to rebuild the Nova Corps, even if Nova Prime and Riley are there.
Series movies, it doesn't matter until they start filming it. They did this with us with Armor Wars, and that changed.
Well, that might not even come out, so I'm throwing that out, you know, until they actually film it. But the fact they're talking about the series is good. You know, I agree with you. They should do that, and they should talk about rebuilding the Nova Corps because they were the space police, right? I think that'd be great. And then the Guardians, you know, have that new team as well. So I'd love to see more stuff. And it kind of goes to this next thing. I think Marvel is heading into space. We've been teased that they're heading into space in the future. Stuff, you know, getting out of the multiverse and doing more universal things. And the rumor is that a solo Silver Surfer project is still in the works at Marvel. And it's thought to be a special presentation, maybe more like Echo or Werewolf by Night rather than a full series. And the question comes down to knowing that Fantastic Four is in a different universe. They will have Shala Ball, who's the Silver Surfer in that movie, or if they're going to do the Norrin Rad version, the Silver Surfer we all know for this.
This feels like, is this just like a pulse check? Because we had this segment on our show, I feel like earlier this year or maybe last year, of a special presentation for the Silver Surfer, and then feel like it went away and it died, and now it's back on life support. So I guess we just keeping our eyes peeled.
I think that, and we talked about Iger coming in. They kind of rewiped the slate, right? We're working out. They're making less. They're working on a lot of projects, but making maybe less of them. So I think they are. If Marvel is going universal instead of multiversal in the new world, probably with the who are the aliens in the X-Men animated series? Can't remember, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The ones that Professor X lives with. So like, if they're doing a mutant saga, they're going to need those aliens. You know, they're going to touch on the Celestials again. We might not get another Eternals movie, but they're going to be out there. I think there might be an Annihilation saga coming, which is one of my favorite series as well. So we're going to see, how space treats these people. But if they're talking about a Silver Surfer project, I'm like, Silver Surfer's interesting. Maybe an origin special presentation, so they don't have to show how he got the powers in the movie, right? They could just be like, all right, well, he's on a surfboard. Watch this show. But we'll see. We'll like you said, we'll figure it out. I don't really have a topic for this yet, but the rumor is Logan Kim, he's a podcast in Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters movies, has been cast as Amadeus Cho in the MCU. And that was the only news, so I'm going to put an asterisk. It could be live action in an upcoming film, or it could be in the Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated series, right? Knowing that he's going to be in there as well. His mother was teased in Age of Ultron. She was the one who asked, is Thor going to be there? Remember at the thing? She helped build Vision's body when she was mind controlled. Mm-hmm. So
I feel like this falls into the category of the threads that my algorithm has been pulling in. The Agatha All Along rumor mill and threads are like spinning up. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny because I feel like Agatha All Along is kind of activating a group of fans that the MCU hasn't really touched in a while. And they're getting really excited. They're way more excited about the show than I am, and I'm happy for them. Yeah. I don't have any ill will towards the show. But it is fun seeing them like, hey, I have a new theory. I have an idea. What if this is happening? What if this is happening? And I bring this up because isn't this character theoretically supposed to be in a relationship with Wiccan, right? Am I getting that right? No,
you're thinking Hulkling, not Amadeus Cho. Yeah, no, it's fine. Because Amadeus Cho becomes the Hulk in a couple books. Like, he's a young person, I think one of the smartest kids in our top 5, and he ends up injecting himself to become a Hulk of some kind. But he was in the Young Avengers as well. I don't know if they're going to go down the Hulk route here. Like, I think that's introducing Amadeus Cho.
Keep track of these Hulk Juniors.
Well, Hulkling, fun fact, not even a Hulk.
Technically not a.
Yeah.
He's technically not a Hulk. He's like a love child. I get it. Yeah.
Well, he's not even a love child. He's not. He has no Hulk blood in him. He's a Kree Skrull hybrid. Like he's half Skrull, half Kree, and I don't know why they called him Hulkling. It is the worst naming convention you could give a character who has no Hulk in him at all, other than the fact he's green. But you're right that Wiccan and Hulk.
So much for my algorithm has nothing to do with Agatha all along.
well, Hulkling and Wiccan are in a relationship in the comic books, so if they go down that route, absolutely. I mean, you're primed for whenever that does happen eventually in the MCU, if we're headed to space. Moving on, Spider-Man 4, a reliable source, and I only put this in here because it's a reliable source who's got a lot of scoops right historically. And he says, even though, take this with a grain of salt, but I've heard the next Spider-Man movie might be titled Spider-Man King in Black. And this would tie into the symbiote left in No Way Home, and possibly the MCU's version of Knull, or maybe even Venom's 3 version of Knull. And that's going to go right into my bottom point, Mike. And I don't know if you heard about this. When Sony and Marvel got their new contract together for Spider-Man 4, Marvel now can use any Sony Spider-Man character 30 days after they hit video on demand, rather than taking them completely off the table. So if Venom 3 hits streaming in February, by March, Marvel can use any character in there themselves.
Wow,
in Spider-Man 4.
Interesting. I'm curious how that goes release date wise, because it takes a while to develop these projects. So like if Venom, hits VOD, or let's say a new character in Venom, like Knull,
yeah.
Right? Knull hits VOD. Does that mean they can start putting Knull into the script, or they can put a release date 30 days for a movie that Knull is in? I got to imagine it's once it's kind of published out into the world is when they're allowed to use it, would be my guess.
I've heard it's the latter of those two, that they can put them in content or a show 30 days later.
Yeah, once it starts generating, I guess, eyeballs or money. That's interesting. That basically gives Kevin Feige kind of full range over the Sony characters.
It does.
How do I feel about this? I think I share opinions with some other people online when we were fully expecting the next Spider-Man movie to be more grounded, because he doesn't have the power suit anymore. He's destitute. He's experienced extreme loss. He's on his own, probably in a tiny itty bitty apartment in Manhattan. Now all of a sudden, a cosmic symbiote king either shows up in Manhattan or he gets thrown into space. Don't like that direction right away, but I do like the idea that Kevin Feige gets to kind of pull these characters. Now we can really develop like a Norman Osborn, right? Yeah. We can really flesh out an Oscorp now without Sony kind of ruining it, right?
Yeah. And again, these are all rumors, and it might not be. It might not be Knull. Knull was called the King in Black, but it could be the symbiote suit, right? A symbiote suit can still be a street level thing. He's like, my homemade stuff isn't that good. I'm going to need something stronger. Symbiote finds him. He gets a black suit, and then maybe he uses that in Secret Wars, right? Kind of along the way. I don't know. So, because Marvel does like to take titles from comic books that have nothing to do with them. Age of Ultron is not based on the comic book. It's just the title of the movie. So I do think that King in Black could mean he's just got the symbiote suit. King could also be a Kingpin reference, right? If he's dealing with the Kingpin in New York on a street level basis. So historically, Marvel not using the title, MCU not using the Marvel Comics title appropriately could be, hey, here's a Kingpin. What if the Kingpin had a Venom suit? What if that was the villain?
I mean,
that'd be interesting to see.
They have to do something original,
yeah.
Right? I mean, we've seen the black suit before. I'd like to see it used.
We just played a game with
way.
it. I mean, like, they've all done it kind of the same kind of ways. Well, I don't know. We'll still a little bit. Next up is for Spider-Man. Rumor Andrew Garfield is locked in for 2 more Spider-Man appearances. So maybe Secret Wars, and maybe this grabbed a second one just in case.
Maybe they keep trying to make Andrew Garfield happen. I mean, I get it. They're responding to the energy from the internet. There's no reason not to, I guess. But Tom Holland's doing a great job. Just keep the integrity of him being Spider-Man in place, and I'll be happy.
Yeah. So Sony, and my guess, and this was Sony keeping him in place, right? Not Marvel. My fear is Sony's like, oh my God, look at that multiversal money. We're gonna be 5 years too late on it, just like we always are. So hopefully it's just for Secret Wars and nothing else, and they just had a second one just in case. Maybe flashbacks or some other thing. I don't know. I don't have this in here because this is a rumor, but rumor is Sam Raimi is going to be locked in for Doctor Strange 3 soon enough. So I would love to see him come back. Speaking of Spider-Man and multiverses, Venom.
Maybe he'll have a little bit more time to iterate on the movie as well, since he was kind of brought in a little last minute. Right? And
it was also filmed in a health crisis, right? Like a lot of those movies were filmed in a health crisis. Like you have to do a lot of things differently, and
maybe he'll have more time to plan around the wigs. Yeah. The biggest sin that movie has is the wigs. They're so bad on so many characters.
Yeah. But it was so cool to see some of those action. He did really good with the action scenes and like the innovative parts. So I would love to see him take that and be his own thing, or at least like should have time and have sets and stuff that he did. I think he does a great job. Venom: The Last Dance. The rumor here is that Andy Serkis is going to be playing Knull, but it will be mocapped Knull, so very CGI heavy.
That's the most believable report I've ever heard.
Yeah,
I would bet money on that. That sounds so accurate.
and he did direct Let There Be Carnage, so he does have history in the Venom verse for people who may not remember that. And then also, because we love it, popcorn buckets are out. Regal, I've got an image for Regal's popcorn buckets, drink vessels, and for some reason, controller holders. Regal's going all out with the merch here. I don't love this popcorn vessel. I don't love it at all, Mike. This is very much on the lower level of popcorn buckets.
Are we talking about the Venom mouth?
Yeah, the Venom bust with the mouth full of popcorn.
Which is weird because I saw a different one where the mouth is closed and the popcorn goes in the back of the head.
That is the one below. That's Cinemark. That's the Cinemark one below.
Yeah, similar to. If I had to pick, I suppose it would be this one. I think the thing I don't like about it is the detail seems low. I feel like we've seen some very high level kind of plastic molds, and this kind of seems like low effort. Like even like the white veining kind of looks like haphazard, almost looks like kind of like that whiteout that comes off in like a tape.
Yep. It does exactly, and like the jaw and teeth, it needs bottom teeth for this to work. I think the fact it's only got top row teeth and no bottom teeth really throws me for a loop. And this would just be a bitch to clean. I'd hate to get the popcorn out of there. Can you imagine trying to eat that in a theater? Like you're trying to turn it upside down and get the popcorn out of there. It'd just be awful. The Venom cup, though, the nice black veiny Venom cup with his face oozing out of the lid there is a little interesting. It's very simple. I do appreciate that. I have, Mike, a PlayStation 1 Venom memory card, and it looks very similar to that cup. So I'm down with that. But then also the controller holders, I told Mike, I'm like, there is Venom and anti-Venom controller holders. And what I didn't realize when I first sent this to you, anti-Venom obviously is in the comic books, it's Eddie Brock becomes anti-Venom for some reason. But these have the Spider-Man symbol on his chest, so these aren't movie versions because he does not carry the Spider logo on his chest in the Venom movies. Yeah,
that's a good point. Unless, we all know how great storytelling they do in those Venom movies, and they really think everything through and pay every detail off.
Yep.
So maybe they just full send it, and they're just like, we don't care. This is the last Venom movie. Ugh. It's literally called The Last Dance. I want the spider icon on the chest, and they'll contrive a way for it to happen just so they can have that moment, similar to how Wolverine finally puts on the yellow suit with the mask and people are taking screenshots, and this will be our screenshot moment.
I don't think they're thinking that through already, but yeah, go on.
I wasn't anticipating an anti-Venom, but at the same time, like no one was expecting Knull either. So sure. Yeah. I wouldn't rule this out, but you do bring up a good point that they haven't done that.
And I've never seen a theater sell controller holders, which is just blowing my mind. Maybe like they have a merch deal with like GameStop or something, like maybe, or but it's just really weird. So I was interested to see this image came from their Twitter for people who were looking at this. We didn't Photoshop that. The Cinemark is it's a video clip here to the X. It's It's the Venom head pops up, very movie accurate Venom head. The back of the head opens up, the popcorn comes out. Venom likes to eat brains, we know that. So it's very funny that you get to open up and eat popcorn out of his head like it's a brain. So that's fine. I was expecting more out of the Venom merch, but at the same time, maybe not for here. For those who are interested, Pizza Hut is doing a black aioli drizzle on certain pizzas in collaboration.
Looks disgusting.
Yeah, if you want black goo all over your pizzas, this is for you. You can get a Pizza Hut only. And then lastly, tickets are on sale. I was able to get my tickets because I had credits on my Cinemark app. So I was like, great, this is perfect. So
Chris, what do I do? Obviously, I know I'm not going to like the movie, but it seems weird not to watch it. So maybe I'll try to find a way to fit The Last Dance into my life.
It's probably
figure it out.
less than 2 hours, so you probably have a good opportunity. It's this or Craven that you're going to watch this year, Mike, and I feel like you're going to watch this over Craven in theaters. If I was
what I need is I need to watch this on like 2x.
Yeah, I
need a video player that will let me binge this quickly.
I will see it Thursday, so I can give you a much like I did with Madam Web, Mike. I can give you the update. Hey, skip this or don't skip this.
Maybe we create a kind of a new format of the show where it's just Chris runs down the movie to Mike, where it's like, and then people can come along. They can join the show. They can join that episode of the podcast. Be like, hey, we're a group of people that also didn't want to waste our time, but I'll listen to somebody on a podcast run it down for me. So take extensive notes, Chris, just in case I don't get a chance to see it.
Yeah, I will. I'll let you know how it goes. I'm excited to see this one. Like I said, I've seen all three. They are not offensive to me at the least. I've now seen more offensive things this year. I paid to watch Madam Web. I paid money to watch that, Mike, and I saved you from watching that and paying that. So I will go pay this. I like Tom Hardy. I think seeing Knull is going to be interesting. I want to know what crazy shit they're going to pull out for this one. So I'll keep you guys posted. Tickets are on sale. I got mine for the 24th, 10/24, so a couple weeks. Lastly, we got our first set photos of Spider-Man Noir from Just Jared. So first set photos shows Nicolas Cage on set as an aging detective, as we meant. He looks like an old detective set in the 1930s, Mike. I want this photo to be black and white so bad. Like, I just want to black and white it so bad. But, he is wearing his best 1930s attire he can, Mike, in gray here.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what I expected, but... Yep. I mean, we're all just waiting for the Spider Noir suit, right? Yeah. That's the screenshot. That's the official Vanity first look that's going to get the internet excited. I don't think this is getting anyone excited. We like Nicolas Cage, obviously. He's a crazy ingredient in the soup that is Hollywood. But this is just a dude in a coat.
Yeah, I think... To your point, no one's excited, but they're also not trying to build excitement here. Like, these aren't official photos; these are set photos. So, very, very few people are going to be looking up Nicolas Cage and Spider-Man set photos at the same time. We fall in a very small niche. However, on the second photo I have included up, they do mention Silvermane directly. Silvermane survives in skivvies, and then it has a very clear green screen tracking marker here on this newspaper. So it looks like whatever they're going to put in there, they did not want to print in place. Whatever that means. So so official. It is official, but it is the Daily Bugle. Obviously, we know that from Spider-Man. Silverman, I believe, is being played by Brendan Gleeson, who was actually in Joker 2 more than I thought he would be. So I'm interested to see kind of what this is. It kind of follows up. I have curiosity. I don't have hopes, Mike, but I have curiosity for this show, and that is more than I have for most other things. So I'm very interested because Nicolas Cage is going to bring batshit crazy to this role, right? Like, if you go back and look at his Ghost Rider performances, he is going to bring craziness to this. So I'm excited to see how he does that.
It is weird that this is the role that gets him back into the superhero universe. He went from, I guess, would you consider Ghost Rider A-list when that movie came out, or would that be kind of like a B-list?
That's a B. That was a B-list by far.
Yeah, so I guess he's just kind of staying in that zone of just like alternate Spider-Man, B-lister, ready to go.
And I would even say it's Spider-Man, but it's Spider-Man Noir, which is even more C-lister. But he did have the role in obviously Into the Spider-Verse, right? Which I think
that is true. That is true.
Yeah,
there's some continuity there.
It was introduced to people, and he's like, if no one else is going to take this, I'll do it. But I feel like maybe in 6 months to a year, we're going to find out he has maybe like some sort of like disease, like Bruce Willis has, and he's just taking all these roles so he can have money later in life to pay off his castles.
Oh, no.
Like I fear like he's just taking all these bad roles for that reason. Hopefully he's not. Hopefully he's good and just gets to do what he wants because he had a great 90s streak, and he just wants to do fun things. But we'll see. But yes, check out those photos in our show notes as well. Mike, that is the episode for today. A little longer than usual, but I had a good time. This was fun to talk about. If people want to know more about what we're doing, what we're up to, where can they find you at?
Oh, they can find my webcomics at pickledcomics.com and liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, Valdan, or video game systems of the same name. This week, for me, Mike, is a Dragon Ball game, Sparking Zero. The first Dragon Ball fighting game in years that's related to Budokai. And I'm just, my inner like high school kid is coming out because I'm so excited to play it. If I knew when it was going to come in, I would take the day off work. That's how excited I am for this. But I'm very excited to play that. Make sure
if you can't find Game Fuel, get some sort of Mountain Dew equivalent, because I feel like that'll pair really nicely with the Dragon Ball Z fighting game.
The Game Fuel Citrus Cherry is coming out because Diablo 4's expansion launches on Tuesday as well, and it's a tie-in with that.
Perfect timing.
So you can get the Citrus Punch with the Diablo tie-in. So you are 100% right. I'll be having Mountain Dew, Game Fuel, pizza rolls, and all the anime I can get my hands on. But if people want to come back and listen to more of the show, more of our episodes, where can they find that goodness at?
Oh, well, since the copyright is now invalid, you can safely visit superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find all the avenues we host our show. To get our awesome show notes, we got a lot of blue links in the show this week, so head on over to superheroslate.com and start clicking on those. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere else you'd love to listen to podcasts. You can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. We love it when you reach out and let us know what you're watching, what you're playing, what you're building. Chris is printing things from the ground up. Yes. And if anyone else is into 3D printing, we'd love to see what you're printing as well, because I like seeing what Chris is printing.
It's fun to learn. We love
our super fans. Yes, if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you have to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.